welcome to episode number 626 of this here electronic engineering podcast called Amelia's Weekly Fish Fry, brought to you by eejournal.com and written, produced, and hosted by me, Amelia Dalton. Let's talk about the vulnerable, soft underbelly of the cyber ecosystem. Yep, we're talking all about cybersecurity for edge devices this week, my friends. My guest is David Pearah, CEO of SpiderOak. David and I explore why traditional cybersecurity solutions do not properly protect edge devices, how SpiderOak is empowering developers to protect their edge applications, and why they're also offering their technology platform as open source software. So, without further ado, please welcome David to Fish Fry. Hi, David. Thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thanks for having me, Amelia.
Absolutely. Okay, so first off, for my audience who may not know, what is SpiderOak all about?
SpiderOak is all about edge cybersecurity, which of course begs the question, what is that? So the edge we define simply as any place where you have terrible connectivity, an unreliable or intermittent or disrupted connection to the internet or no internet at all, and typically really small devices, whether they're sensors or robots or drones or even satellites. So when you have that confluence of small devices and terribly connected places, that we define that as the edge. And we protect data at the edge, whether it's in transit or at rest. That's what we do.
Fantastic. Now, before we talk about SpiderOak's specific solutions, let's also talk about IoT edge environments. These environments can be a blind spot for cybersecurity. So talk to me about the risks that these types of environments can pose.
Well, if you think about where these devices are made in the supply chain and the countries that are involved, and frankly, the compute resources that are available to them, this often ends up being the soft underbelly of our entire cyber ecosystem. Everyone loves to talk about my phone got hacked or my email got hacked or my home computer got hacked, but no one ever talks about like their keychain or their home alarm system or the temperature sensor or this camera. And yet those are just as connected, but often unprotected entirely. They just kind of slip our attention because they're unobtrusive and they're just silently working behind the scenes. So where you have this large building and you think about all the computer systems and networks and trying to protect them, but no one ever talks about the door entry sensor and what that could lateral into. And it's not that those systems themselves necessarily are the attack vector. It's what they could lead to. Remember, the Colonial Pipeline event, well, maybe not an IoT event, kind of underscores the whole, if you can get access to email, that can get you places, So if you're in someone's network, you can wreck a lot of things and do a lot of damage. And that's really what IoT is. It's the often forgotten, often unprotected devices that lead to these larger breaches. Not just because they're unobtrusive, but because they don't have traditional cybersecurity solutions that can be applied. When you have something that isn't a computer, think about all the things that you can't now use that you typically would use for your home computer or a server. That's why it's underserved.
Sure, absolutely. So how can we solve these issues? What solutions would you recommend to address these issues?
So again, just taking off my SpiderOak hat and thinking about just generally, why are we in this situation? I know you can't see this. We're doing it on a podcast, but I have a stack of papers about an inch thick of like all the data breaches that have happened to me. I'm never paying for credit monitoring again for the rest of my life. I don't know about you, Amelia, but we have a persistent problem. And it seems like no matter what we've done over the last 20 years, it doesn't seem to be getting better, right? Why is that? So let's fundamentally start with that question. We build applications with amazing and talented software developers, and then we leave the task of protecting the customers and the data to an entirely different team in IT. There's this fundamental separation of responsibility of people who make apps and then people who protect the data in those apps. That is what is broken about the entire ecosystem. First, we want to come to it with the idea that maybe developers who are currently creating the problem, maybe they're part of the solution. How do we bring developers into the discussion around cybersecurity? And if you believe that, then the next statement is, what are the tools that we can arm them with? And that is what SpiderOak is about. We want to give tools to developers to protect the data in their applications in a useful, maybe not as technical way to describe this is, do you use like WhatsApp or Signal for texting on your phone or any sort of secure messaging apps? You just do just regular texting for everything?
Just regular text.
Oh, you're just living that crazy, unprotected cyber life. Yeah. Well, for those in your audience that do, it's the difference between an application that allows you to send a message securely, regardless of the network that it travels over, all the way to, I don't know about you, I love true crime and watching that content online. How many crimes have been solved by people just texting their intentions to their accomplices and not using secure messaging? Because you can't protect the networks and you can't protect against insiders and all your stuff is seen. But if you have an application with security built in, you can kind of thwart those kinds of ways of detecting content. So we're all about arming developers with tools to build applications securely. The fact that we're doing it at this edge IoT environment is really more of a strategic move for us because it's such a blue ocean. As some people put it, like a greenfield opportunity, because it's such an underserved market that is not well served by all the traditional cybersecurity solutions out there. We took this idea of building applications securely and went over this kind of like this greenfield opportunity. And that's how we ended up in this space, literally and figuratively in space.
Yes, let's talk about that. I was really interested in your platform and its connection to space and other markets.
Yeah. So have you ever tried to check your email on a plane? There's two ways you can do it. One is through like your web browser, and then it's often a frustrating, slow, it often doesn't work experience. But if you bring Outlook on your laptop and have it installed and it's kind of just syncing emails in the background, you can continue working on all the emails you have and then it eventually will pull in new ones. It's just a better experience. Why? Because the satellite connection is intermittent and unreliable and slow. You need something that is designed to deal with that and can make that experience tolerable for you as a consumer, as opposed to a web page, which is completely reliant on great connectivity. We are in space literally because we have built solutions that are tolerant of delays and disruptions to connectivity, which has then opened up the huge market opportunity for the edge. So we built a solution that works on really tiny things like sensors and satellites, and made it also work over what we call technically an asynchronous environment, but humans would call terrible connectivity environments or slow connectivity environments. If you don't design with these two constraints in mind, you will not be able to play in space or other IoT environments. This is why it's such a great opportunity for us as a company and other companies that break into, the space, because all the traditional solutions assume what, Amelia? A server, a data center, great connectivity, it's always on. I mean, those are great assumptions for a lot of cases. But if those don't apply to you, or you're working on something that's barely a computer, it's barely a device, it's got a chip and some power, then you're kind of left out of all the 99.9% of the cybersecurity solutions out there. And that's what we've targeted by focusing on small devices and terrible connectivity as first principles for what we make.
All right. So I read that late last year, SpiderOak launched your technology platform as an open source offering. So talk to me about this and what benefits engineers can gain by using your platform.
Other than the street cred that you get then with all developers by doing open source, all the cool kids are doing it, Amelia, right?
Right.
It's interesting. My last company was also built around open source, and it's challenging. Honestly, it's not all, rainbows and unicorns in the open source. You're trying to balance credibility with the engineering community, transparency of your claims with making a business. And frankly, you're having to balance these two concerns. Why did we pursue open source? Ultimately, we are making some pretty bold claims about our ability to convey and secure data in a very tough environment. And I think it's reasonable for the community, our customers, and even individual engineers to question, like, is this true? Can they do this? And can I inspect this claim for myself? So that's one thing that the open source community has done. It's literally laying bare how we do what we do so that you yourself can confirm those claims. The other thing it allows us to do is it really encourages people to build our technology into their own applications. We live or die as a company through the adoption of our technology into other people's products. We don't make something that an end user would use. We build something that goes inside. It's like the Intel Inside strategy, if you will. So the way you win is by having lots of different amazing integrators and resellers and vendors put their technology in. And open source just lowers the barrier. You don't have to call us and set up a contract and do all these other mechanics just to get to step one. It's like, hey, go to GitHub, download the code. Here's some examples, try it out. Do you want to work with us? Great, then call us. So we are basically front loading the experience and the adoption and then putting the sales on the back end of the process. And I think that ultimately the trade-off is worth it for us. And frankly, it allows us to, go after customers that are afraid of vendor lock-in. That's the other kind of main thing. It's like, I'm going to build this huge part of my product around a startup. I want to have the confidence that it's going to be around for a long time, and showing that there's this vibrant community really allays that concern. So those are the main reasons. Plus, again, I go back to the street cred with developers. It's a real thing. And we do take full, advantage of having this amazing community that surrounds us and supports us and adopts us.
I love that street cred. All right. Well, it is time for your off the cuff question. So if you could have one meal right now, it doesn't matter if it's on the other side of the world, you need a passport to get there. What would you have?
I have to piece together a whole meal. Okay, well, here we go.
Well, it could just be a food if you want.
I'm crazy about Vietnamese food. And so I would have the beef noodle soup, the pho, but I would then pair it with a McDonald's ice cream cone at the end. That is legit crack to me. And when that machine is broken at McDonald's, I fly into a rage that is just undescribable. And I know there's no milk at all in that product. There's probably no cows were harmed in the making of a McDonald's ice cream cone, but I want it. It is the perfect ending to any meal, whether a high-end meal or even just a local burger. You got to get that McDonald's ice cream cone.
I love that. That's the first McDonald's ice cream cone answer I have had on fish fry. So there you go.
Well, I like to keep it real.
Yeah. Street cred all the way.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, this was super cool. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Amelia.
Also, if you'd like more information about SpiderOak, check out this week's fish frying page on eejournal.com or this week's YouTube episode as well. Hey, have you checked out EE Journal on social media yet? Well, you should. You can find us at facebook.com/EEJournal. If LinkedIn is your thing, heck, you can follow me or us on LinkedIn as well. And we are also on Blue Sky Social and Mastodon too. And we have that YouTube channel I mentioned earlier, youtube.com/EEJournal. Folks, it is chock full of all kinds of techie videos, including our very popular Chalk Talk webcast series, hosted by me, and our new animated series called Libby's Lab. And of course, you can subscribe to our EE Journal YouTube channel as well. Also, make sure that you subscribe to this here podcast on Spotify, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or just about any other podcasting platform to listen to some exciting upcoming episodes. Thank you everyone for tuning in. If you know of any cool new technology or heck you just want to chat, shoot me a line at Amelia, that's AMELIA, at eejournal.com, or post a comment on our forums on EE Journal. For the week of April 4th, 2025, I'm Amelia Dalton, and you've been fried.